And we're joined by Miles Bruckle, the president of the Kelowna Citizens for a New Performing Arts Center. Did I get that name right?
Yes, you did.
So we're standing in front of the old community theater, awesome as it was when it was built back in, what, the
60s.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think everyone agrees it doesn't fully serve the community the way a theater should at this stage, does it?
Absolutely not. I mean, it was built when the population was 25,000. What are we now? 150,000. And so it's time for the theater to kind of move on and us get a better facility that can meet the needs of the population today.
Right. So some good news. The city now has $1 million in the to put towards kind of getting going on planning a new theater. You must be pleased with that.
That is great. You know, the theater was always in the city's plans to redo, but it was in the capital plan and it was beyond the 10-year limit. So there were no funds for it. So this is the first time that we've actually got some solid funds. And this should be enough money to kickstart things so that we can create the kind of images, the kind of plans that we can use to attempt to raise the money that we need.
Right. And a key step would be to find a major sponsor, like a title sponsor that might get their name on the building if they could come up with, a substantial portion of the cost.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these kind of projects are funded basically a third by taxpayers, a third by major governments and grants, and a third by the public through their donations. And to kick it off, we need that major sponsor, and that's what our group is working for. And that major sponsor is either somebody that has a legacy concern that they'd like to express, or it might be a corporation. Think of Prospera Place, right? That's a corporation that's sponsoring that, and when they came to town, they did that, and it immediately gave them a big presence in the Okanagan.
Right. The price tag for what your group is envisioning here, it's almost hard to say $90 million.
Yes, it is, but that's what these things cost. They're very big facility. They have 2 theaters in it. They have a lot of other things. They'll have restaurants. They'll have common display areas, almost like a museum for parts of it. It's going to be a great center, but it does cost a few dollars, and I think everybody is aware of where that number should and will be.
And I take it you envision something that wouldn't simply efficiently house enough people to see something, but would be an architectural feature, something to be a real proud center point for the community?
Absolutely. We're using the word iconic. The mayor's used the word iconic. We want this facility to be something that everybody can recognize as it's in Kelowna. So you can see it from the water right away. You're going to see it in the advertising and promotions of the city. Not that Kelowna doesn't have a lot of architecturally designed buildings, but it needs one. It needs something to give it a stamp and something that we can see other than the sales that are at the end of the Bernard Street.
So great to hear there's some shared vision between yourselves and the city about it being iconic, but there are some differences. I take it that the city still has its sights on seeing something that would top out at about 1,200 seats, but you would argue that's not enough.
Correct. So when we work off of the studies that the city has already done, and their latest one, which was the Collier's report that worked on the capacity, came up with a range of 800 to 1,200 seats, which is fine if you want a community theater. But what we've done is we said, hey, this is a regional center. This thing is going to provide entertainment and services for people anywhere from the border up to the other side of Vernon. When you take that capacity, that population into account, you can easily support 1,600 seats. And the beauty of the 1,600 seats is all of a sudden the level of performers, the level of acts, the level of services that we can bring is much higher. So we've completed a capacity study, we've shared it with the city, and we are promoting a 1,600 seat theater.
So you would be able to argue that there are iconic acts that would come here if it was 1,600 seats that flat out wouldn't if it was 1,200.
Absolutely. And the great thing that I think people in the music business, etc., recognize is that big acts come to Vancouver, they jump to Calgary, and they jump to Edmonton. But they'd love to have that middle spot, but they can't come here because either they don't have the capacity for the stage or they don't have the seating capacity. We would be that next step, intermediate step.
Right. This issue has come up, and it seems every time I talk to people like yourself who are enthusiastic about it, we're always in the starting blocks, and it still seems far away. What's the earliest you could imagine something actually gets built?
The process for building a project like this usually takes about a year in architectural design and engineering and maybe a couple more months to get your bids. And then it's a 2-year building. So let's just say I had a big fat wall and I pulled it out and said, let's go today.
Big if.
Yeah, very big if. But it would be 4 years and we'd be opening the doors.
So find that big title sponsor next week, and who knows, within 4 years we could have something.
That's our aspiration, and we think we're going to do it.
Get to work.
You bet. Thank you very much.
Great chatting with you about it, and thanks for watching Kelowna Now.